All right, I will call the work session to order. Welcome everyone to our Williamsport City Council Budget Work Session number 1. It is Monday, November 18th. We're in Trade and Transit 2, third floor. I'll open the floor for limited courtesy of the floor. We've had no requests. And just for the public's record, so this isn't a voting meeting. We are simply doing a work session to kind of go through the proposed budget for 2025. So you'll probably see a little bit of dialogue about how things are set up, structured, et cetera, in what's proposed. Tonight, we're going to go through a handful of departments, including human resources, finance, public works, our general government, which is a lot of the elected officials, the Bureau of Law. On Wednesday, we'll have a concurrent one that will go through predominantly public safety and some of the other funds like capital projects, Act 13, that kind of stuff. So we'll be back here on Wednesday as well. It's a lot of kind of what's going to happen here tonight. So we'll get into item 2, our initial budget review for 2025. I'll welcome Mayor Slaughter up to kind of kick this off. And then what I think we'll do is just kind of go down through the departments one by one as they're listed on the agenda. So Mayor Slaughter, welcome and good evening. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Biter, members of council and the administration. Before you today is the proposed 2025 budget, which includes the 2022 and 2023 unaudited figures, as well as the 2024 projections and the 2025 proposed budget. The 2025 proposed general fund budget is projecting a $3.3 million deficit. In 2024, one-time revenues from the transfer of ARPA, lost revenue, funds from prior Bowman Field activities, proceeds from the sale of fire equipment, and the shifting of annual expenditures to ARPA helped offset the $3 million anticipated deficit to the $753,000 deficit approved in the 2024 budget. Current projections anticipate that the city will end 2024 with approximately $133,000 in surplus rather than the budgeted deficit. This is due largely to a strong investment income performance and a reduction in anticipated expenditure costs in 2024. The 2024 projected revenue and expenditures will leave the 2025 budget with an anticipated beginning cash balance in the general fund of $4.5 million. The 2025 budget includes a third mill tax increase, resulting in approximately $290,000 in additional real estate tax revenue. Overall, the 2025 budget includes an estimated 4% decrease in anticipated revenue. This decrease reflects the removal of the one-time transfers previously noted, but includes a $1.3 million transfer from the Emergency Reserve Fund. The 2025 expenditures are expected to increase by approximately 5%. This increase includes rising medical costs and shifting annual expenditures back into the general fund budget that were moved to ARPA in 2024. With the exception of adding back the Community Development Office Manager, which was erroneously removed from the 2024 budget, the 2025 salary budget includes no additional positions. The proposed 2025 salary budget as presented includes a 0% increase for police union staff and a 1% increase for fire union staff due to ongoing union contract negotiations. However, the budget packet does include the dollar figures that will need to be added to expenditures for various increase scenarios, depending obviously on how the negotiations end up. In 2024, the city added a grant administrator position, which is now managing $52 million in grants and earmarks awarded to the city. With the assistance of the grants administrator, the police department was able to secure a state earmark to purchase an armored rescue vehicle to help aid in the protection of the city residents. The grant administrator also helped the fire department secure grants to make much needed improvements to their facilities. The fire department was also able to utilize ARPA funds to purchase new state-of-the-art equipment to enhance our city's public safety. Other departments, such as the city's Bureau of Codes and Public Works, were able to upgrade equipment with ARPA dollars as well. The Public Works Department were able to purchase multiple new vehicles to help with the maintenance and upkeep of the community's infrastructure. Also in 2024, through the STAMP grant, the city upgraded its finance software and streamlined departmental processes to function on a more efficient level. The city has a much clearer picture of accurately reported revenues and expenditures, but is faced with extreme financial challenges in the coming years. With the cooperation of City Council, the administration will focus 2025 on devising an action plan to help the city thrive financially. And I'll turn it back over to you, President Yoder.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Let's kick this off by going through the income estimate section of this. Jamie, I think you're going to kind of walk us through that piece of this. Welcome, good evening.
Good evening, council members. So the revenue this year is down by about 4%. It's largely due to those one-time transfers we discussed, the mayor discussed in his opening commentary.
Jamie, do you mean in 2025?
In 2025,
Okay.
yes. Yes, sorry.
So, okay.
For the
sorry.
2025 budget, we're proposing a
Okay,
4%
yeah.
decrease in the revenue. Real estate taxes, we're proposing about 285,000 in an increase. Street excavation permits are decreasing due to less anticipated activity next year, based on speaking with codes. Pension contribution is down due to the removal of the RBT employees. We no longer have the ARPA loss revenue to transfer. ARPA interest will be down because the ARPA funds are being spent down, so the interest will decrease. Last year we had a one-time transfer from the ballpark funds that will not be in the budget this year, and the capital project sale of the fire truck that is removed this year as well. Do you guys have any questions on the revenue?
Any questions from members on any of the changes on page 5, but then any of the additional line items that are in here on pages, what I can tell, 6 through 8, right?
Mhm.
6 through 9.
Yeah, 6 through 9.
Ms. Mealy.
Well, two quick questions. Can we get a summary, just because it's a little easier to track that way, of the changes between last year's revenue and this year's revenue? And I mean, it doesn't need to be the rationale behind it, but just, I know it's.
I think, look at page 5.
Oh,
Yeah,
but-
page 5 explains the increases and decreases in the revenue.
Okay. Sorry. I
The
caught
significant
I caught the
increases in-
initial thing, but did not look at page 5. I apologize.
And
Okay. And Derek, can we get a copy of your comments too? Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Biter.
The biggest question that I have on page 5 is the UPMC lump sum annual contribution, which is not required under their current contract. Are we negotiating that contract with them currently? I mean, that's a huge number that we're going to be losing out on for 2025 and hopefully regain in 26.
Yes, I actually met with them this morning and she emailed me earlier today and I will forward that to you all tomorrow morning. So, yep, to get that started.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions from? I'm gonna ask, I mean, what might sound like a really. It might sound like a really dumb question, but I mean, I'll ask the obvious. I mean, so what would we have done if we didn't have the emergency reserve funding? Because I mean, essentially what I'm kind of seeing here is, that's kind of saving us this year so we can, per the mayor's comments, kind of put an action plan together to make sure we're not, I interpret that as kind of not sitting here next year and needing to rely on that. So, I mean, I guess what would we be doing if we didn't have that? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, to be honest with you, we really gonna have to take a hard look at it, to be honest. And I know it's none of our fault sitting here in this room, but we're paying for some of the sins of the past, frankly.
Appreciate that. So you had your hand up.
Yeah, just refresh my memory, but I believe that funding was funding that we'd originally committed for Graphius running the levy. Out of the ARPA funding that we had, and we transferred it into the city's budget with the lost revenue covenant, because we knew that we wouldn't be able to spend it quickly enough. But, you know, by the end of 26.
This right here is the one that's above anything that came over what we had in the budget.
Oh,
The
It's-
budgeted tax
that's how-
revenue.
the additional
Mhm.
funding.
Yeah.
From 2023. This is anything above the budgeted tax revenue from 2023 was meant to be put into
Yep.
the emergency fund.
But what have we pulled? I know that we have authorized a handful of small draws from the emergency fund unrelated to Grappius and the levy since we,
It was
Just the treasurer's was the small amount. I don't recall what other,
52,000, I
yeah, that
think.
was only 52,000.
okay.
So you're still in pretty good shape there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was, the unguard settlement came out of
Yeah.
that as well, but I
Mhm.
think the interest kind of primarily cover that. So I think you're looking at a net of about 90 to $100,000 out of that
Out of it?
between the two
Got it.
is if my math is correct.
Mhm.
I forget what page that there's a summary, Liz, in the
Yeah.
back of that.
Good.
That's my recollection from looking at it.
Yeah, the emergency fund does have a summary in there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sorry, because I did not have time to review this weekend since we didn't receive it until last week. So if I seem like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I.
Oh, I'm glad to
Doing it for the
answer
first
any
time.
questions I can.
Right.
So the 1.3 is not dipping into any balance that was in there from 2024, 2023. That's really the surplus that for how we designed
Yeah,
that would have
right.
gone in.
To continue. to
Correct.
accrue funds.
From the
Right.
23 over budgeted revenue in for taxes.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Mr. Pelisi.
So I just want to make sure that I'm not jumping around or jumping out of turn. But Jamie, thank you for going over the review here on page 5. Are we going to be able to address line items on page 4? Should we choose to? We have questions on those.
Sure.
Are you intending to address these at a later point in time during tonight? Are we kind of just moving through it?
Well, I mean, page 4 is really a just summary of the overall budget from a high level. If it's revenue related, sure. I mean, if your questions maybe related to a particular department, we're gonna hit every department as we go through this.
I was
Um,
just looking for the fast and quick kind of answer when I'm
Go
looking
for
at some of these figures.
Go for it.
I appreciate it. Jamie, I'm looking here real quick. At budgetary changes, police increase of $637,750. Fire, an increase of $437,756. Are you able to give us a quick insight on what's the main driver behind these?
I can tell you that a large part of both of those are medical insurance. The medical insurance for the individuals went up 6% and 8% for family. The mayor discussed earlier that the police have a 0% increase in there. So the salary line item increase is based on just rank changes. And that's a little over 100,000, I believe. Our contribution for the pension was an increase, I believe, in the police this year, and fire as well. When they go over their budgets, though, they can be more specific on those items.
Okay. And real quick, the insurance increases. Do you have an idea of what the city pays for the portion of the insurance that we're providing?
So
Like for example?
for example, for an individual and a family, the city pays the majority of the monthly premium. It's based on time served. It's based on each union contract. It's based on what the your service time in the union contract and how much a individual pays for their premium based on what the city pays for their premium. But the city does absorb a large cost of the individual's premium for the health insurance.
Okay. Would you say like 80%, 85% the city absorbs?
I don't have a calculation, but I'd say maybe.
Okay.
I can get you that answer though. Yeah, I can get you guys that answer.
Okay. I
And it's
appreciate it.
definitely going to be different across each board. So
Gotcha.
the insurance is different for each contract.
And I'm just gonna hit these real quick so we can move on. But transit, I'm looking at a almost $30,000 increase in transit. Can you explain that real quick?
So the transit line item is our cost for the local share for RVT. That's usually dictated by RVT. They give us that share. I'm not exactly sure what that calculation is made up of, but I can
Okay.
let
Yeah,
you know. But it is a cost to the city that we pay every year, and it does seem to increase each year.
I appreciate, if there's a way how we were able to figure out how that number is calculated, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay,
Any other?
no, thanks.
No, thank you, Mr. Pelisi. Any other questions related to income estimates? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Livermore.
Thank you.
Let's go to general government. That starts on page 10. And I can handle city council and the city clerk. So if you look on page 10, under city council and city clerk, big changes you're gonna see are just increase some premium on the city council side. Smaller allocation on city hall operating, nothing super crazy. We're talking about a net of $6,000 increase in the grand scheme of things between the two of those. City clerk, there's a 3% proposed increase in there for our city clerk. The allocation increased on her end. But again, nothing super crazy, and there's not really much I don't know that we can really do about that anyway. And then the MMO piece decreased for her. One thing that I will draw your attention to, if I can just catch this here really quick. Just trying to refresh my memory from whenever I put this together. On page 11, I'll take you to the contracted services line item, the second or third one from the bottom. We carried 85,000 in there last year. I kept that number the same. And here was the rationale for that, and other people can, disagree with me, that kind of stuff, that's okay. So last year, that number was primarily for negotiator and for the BKV study for City Hall we're doing. I asked Jamie and the mayor to keep that in there unless they wanted to put something somewhere else, notably for a next step engineering work to do something with the City Hall issue, regardless of where that goes, based on the data we get back from BKV. That was the rationale for having that in there, so everybody knows. I presume Derek, Jamie, you were okay keeping that number in there, so cool. That's really the big one. I'm just trying to remember if there was anything super crazy on the city clerk's end. I don't really know that there was out of the ordinary. But any questions on city council on pages not 10, 11, or 12? Mr. Biter.
This is a question that doesn't affect us for this year specifically, but will going forward. The health insurance costs, they will be going away for 2026 because of changes that we made to compensation
Right.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Yes, that is correct. So, sorry, let me get my page up here. So next year is the last year under current city council compensation model. So what you'll see here, I'll draw your attention and for the public's knowledge, two key line items. There are salaries of 21,750 for all 7 of us combined. And then there's a health insurance cost of 117,783. So we all make anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 a year. That's been like that since 1972, I believe. We have the option to elect city health insurance. That will change at the next budget cycle. So what that's going to look like is you're going to see about $71,000 or $72,000 of total salary in there, because our salary is going to go up, but we're not going to take health insurance anymore, and our health insurance number is going to be zeroed out. So we're going to save a net of about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So Mr. Bider, thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you. Will that affect pension as well? I can't remember if we made any decision on that.
So what we did was, so for the members of council that are vested, they are not able to pull themselves out, but for the others that are not, we will not be in the pension. And from what Monkenhop had told us, that there's not going to be any kind of negative impact on the pension fund itself by taking a few people out of it.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder on that, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions on city council or the city clerk's budget? Okay. Mayor Slaughter, I'll welcome you back up to walk through yours.
Good evening once again, President Yoder, Vice President Bider, members of council and administration. What you'll see in mine is a very slight 1.6% increase. The major increases that, well, I shouldn't say major, but the increases that lead to that 1.6, the 3% proposed as we discussed. There's a decrease in per the MMO, slight decrease there in my office. A slight increase in the health insurance, which Jamie touched on. We did increase legal services slightly by $5,000. That line item, I think it went from 15 to 20,000, I believe, was that increase. And that's just due to some of the ongoing litigation that we have. An event that it's still ongoing in 2025. Hopefully we're able to mitigate some of that. And then just the city hall operating allocation, which is standard each year. And the increase, the last thing there, which actually I think Janice Holmes' computer was acting wonky, but I think it's better now, Chris, right? So I think it's okay at the moment. We did add a little because we thought a month or two ago that her computer was actually going to die. But I think it's sort of resurrected itself at this point. And other than that, that's really that. I think everything else for the most part remained the same.
Any questions for Mayor Slaughter on the mayor's office's budget? Okay, Mayor Slaughter, thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
Let's move to the Bureau of Law. That is on page 21. Mayor, welcome back. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yep, this is actually, everything remained exactly the same. We didn't change anything here. Literally the exact same numbers as last year. I think it's gone pretty well with McCormick and the new solicitor that we have as well. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any questions for the mayor, Austin? Thanks, Austin. We enjoy having you. Let's go to the controller's budget. Find my place here.
16.
Sorry, second. The controller's budget starts on page 17. Peg, welcome. Good evening. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Yoder, members, council, citizens of Williamsport.
Peg, you want to pull the mic down a little bit? Thank you.
The controller's budget is as follows. Salaries, $63,958. My salary is by resolution and a 3% increase for my assistant or at-will employees. FICA is $4,890. Life insurance, $95. Workers' comp, $29. Pensions, $8,873. And health insurance, $14,501. Auditing service is $282,000. Office rental, $9,592. City Hall operating allocation, 26,916. Office supplies, 1,000. Supplies and materials, $800. For a total of 412,654.
Mr. Bider.
The only question that I have is the amount that we allocate for auditing services, yet it doesn't seem like we get too close to that. I mean, this year we're at 88,950. Or excuse me, yeah, through the 30th, we're at $177,900. Could you explain to me just a little bit of what that auditing service is actually doing for us?
Well,
I can explain that for you.
Please, that'd be great.
So the auditing service that was budgeted for 2024, we were hoping to include 3 years. We only got 2 in. 2021 audit should be coming to end here soon. So that's why we didn't spend all of it in 2024, but we plan to do 22, 23, and 24 in 25. So that's the reason for the
increase.
increase.
And the additional $12,000, Jamie, is because they're not doing much on 21, so it's cheap.
We did discuss some changes that they were able to make based on some of the things that they were given in the previous audit. So we talked to, yeah.
Okay, good.
And 21 should be to you all by on December 5th, actually, that meeting. That's the goal anyway. Yeah.
And then we're honestly hoping to complete 3 audits this year additionally. For some reason, I thought we weren't looking at being caught up by 24. I thought we were.
It's the hope.
Okay, all right, well.
It's the goal.
Yeah, I was of the impression when Tracy left that was, by the time she left at the end of last year, that she would have had everything submitted and it would have been on the auditors then to have everything done. I was of the impression to have it through the end of 23.
Yeah, I think though, but maybe I'm wrong. Randy might remember better than I do. For some finance conversations with the auditors this year, I knew we were off of that schedule for sure, that like we weren't going to be on time for this year's audit, but I was under the impression that we weren't really going to get caught up till 25. So if we can get, anyway, if we can get caught up this year, that'd be great.
Yeah, the hope is to be
Yeah.
caught up next
Okay.
year.
Yeah. I thought that was.
Trust it. Any other questions for the controller's budget? All right, thank you, Peg.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let's move to the treasurer. Tax collector treasurer starts on page 19. Mr. Mackey, McKay, welcome, sir.
Good evening. Give me 1 second to pull this up here
Yeah, no worries.
in the lovely book that Jamie made for us. So per the at will and the contracts, we are required to do the 3% increases as well as the ordinances. That's only going up by $3,600. The pensions again are dropping. So I think they reallocated a bunch of those. Our health insurance is going up still. I asked for $1,500 less in travel. They recently elected me as the secretary for one of the local tax conferences, so I'm going to make sure that the travel expenses stay lighter this year. And again, our allocation is going up. So the only thing that is really coming down out of me is the $1,500. Everything else was automatic and adjusted right from there.
Any questions for Kevin and the treasurer's office?
You can ask about taxes too if you want.
You mean the calculations at the end of them?
Maybe it might be.
Real estate values are projected to stay the same, yeah?
So I'm not sure if you guys had heard, but the EIT office will no longer be collecting for 2025 tax year. And they'll be having a third-party collector handle that. That's going to drop about $20,000 off of our stuff, off our expenses.
Mr. Bider?
Mr. Mackey, just to ask about taxes. So the county has obviously started to allocate funds for the reassessment.
Correct.
How do you view that impacting us going forward? And that's gonna not take effect until 26 or 7?
28.
28.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit for it
So
to take effect. We won't be able to adjust our tax rates by much until after they finish, in which case, we'll be able to work things out from there. I think 10% is all that we can adjust things by. As they come out with the new numbers, then we'll readjust it. So we're probably not looking at a new tax rate until 2029, 2028 is when we finally figure things out. But from what Brooke is saying over at the county assessment office, again, third are gonna stay the same, a third are gonna go up, and a third are gonna be less. Because all it's supposed to do is equalize everyone else and make the playing field straight again. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, from people calling in and asking about their values, things are all over the place. Like there are some houses I see 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and they're not market value. They're not 75% per market value, which is what the ordinance states. It's just, it's good that they're finally doing this, but I think 20 years is a little much for it to be happening at.
Ms. Mealy?
So just to be clear, Kevin, I mean, regardless of what happens, we're going to see a dramatic increase in the assessed value of every parcel in the city only because we're operating off of 2004 values for every parcel in the city right now, correct?
We'll see things get adjusted, but we'll adjust the tax
Right,
rate.
exactly.
We'll see the assessed values go up, but hopefully as they do that, we can then drop the tax rate to where it's supposed to be. And, you know, most people probably will not see their stuff change around that much, I think.
Yeah. I guess the point that I would make, well, I think maybe taxpayers are coming to some sort of understanding about this because I've had some conversations with
Yep.
people about it recently where they seem to have, but we are not, I think it's what, a 5% we're allowed to increase our real estate income by.
I think it's like 5 or 10%. I don't have
Yeah.
the specifics. I can get that for you.
Right, so anything over a 5 or 10% increase in tax income to the city results in a decrease in our millage so that we don't see any more than a 5 to 10% increase.
Correct, yes.
And so, right, this is bringing values in line with current value, not intended in any way to increase revenue by any of
No.
the municipalities that are affected by
Yeah,
it.
all it
Um,
does is make sure that the playing field is level again.
Right. I guess I think every time we discuss it, I feel the need to underline that because
That's
People-
fair.
people are very concerned about reassessment. And like I said, I've felt hopeful because I've had a handful of conversations with people who seem to understand it conceptually, but I know still that there's a lot of concern about reassessment and what it means for taxation. And all it means is that you are paying taxes on the fair market value of your property, not that
Correct.
you are paying more in taxes because
Correct.
we have
And again,
reassessment.
as
Right.
stated by the county, some people will probably see their stuff go down.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, so it's leveling the playing field. And I think that, you know, even those of us who are perhaps paying less than we should be can appreciate that a level playing field is a fair operation.
That's something we strive for in my
right.
office, is a level playing field.
Anyway, thanks, Kevin.
Any other comments for Mr. Mackey, Mr. Pelisi?
Thank you. Real quick. Just looking at the overview for your office, what you're projecting. Am I saying this right? You're actually requesting less money for your department?
Yeah, as I stated, I'm part of the board members of our local tax, not our local tax conference, but the tax conference I'm a part of. I'm going to try and make sure it stays more local because we're conveniently located in the middle of the state, so we shouldn't be traveling anywhere too far from my opinion. But
So you're requesting less money for your department?
yes,
Just go ahead, Vince, give him some kind of award.
That's why I actually took a picture of this page.
Do you have a
So,
little leg
I
lamp over
appreciate
there?
it. Thank you. What's that?
You have a little leg lamp over there for Kevin? It's that time of year.
A-
It's a
A
major
prestigious award, yes.
I
yes,
did
sir.
want to mention a few things though. That conference I am trying to utilize so that we can get some pull in the Harrisburg so that we hopefully do something about the local service tax. For those of you that have been paying attention, this is one of our taxes that has not changed in revenue for over a decade.
Mhm.
And that it's a bit of a problem when we have certain departments and other departments that are going up $1 million each year. So I went and did talk to Jamie Flick about this, and he is on board with helping us out and trying to get this down to Harrisburg. And we're trying to get a nice little coalition for him to take down to the state capitol so that he can hopefully help us out with that.
Kevin, I am gonna get you an award, just so everyone knows.
Well,
Yeah.
if we get what we want, that's a $500,000 right there.
It's a major role.
The LST, right? So-
That's the LST, yes,
Yeah,
Jared.
yeah. Yeah, we're working on that as well, PML. and
That's,
It's like,
that'll be statewide too.
yeah, we're trying to take a comprehensive approach to this.
Yeah,
And they're,
long overdue.
yeah, and they're being receptive, I think, at this point.
Yes,
So,
it'll be a major boon for a lot of us. And
right, to
the
give us the
municipal level,
flexibility,
not
not
just
just
Williamsport.
LST, but EIT as well. I mean, usually what happens, I think we all know, they give it to you after the fact, but if we can get up front and give us the option, it's so much easier. So it makes sense, and just give the cities the option to utilize it if they want.
Yeah,
So-
this is one of the projects we're hoping to see done.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Mackey? All right, thank you, Kevin.
We did cross 3 million in business privilege this month, by the way.
Nice. Okay, let's go into, let's start our department by department, outside of general government. Let's go to the Human Resources Department. I'll welcome, Ms. Fuller up. I believe she's back there. Assuming you're covering it. Yeah, you just started, so.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, cool. No, that's awesome. Jumping right in.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me here tonight.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I'm here for the human resource budget. And my page is number 23. My department's running at a 4.6% under budget for 2025. Yeah, decrease as well. MMO was decreased. That is the biggest effect on the budget. If you could turn to page 24. You'll see all my numbers are in line. And this is basically a 6 to 8% increase in health insurance as well. And I think you'll see that throughout all these budgets. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Human Resources and Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
No? Okay. Quick and easy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very easy.
Let's go to Finance and Administration.
Hello again. Finance is on page 15. Okay, the finance department is at a 1.83% decrease. Of course, you've seen the O&E MMO has gone down, so that's kind of a trend in all of the budgets that support the O&E. So the biggest drop here was in our interest and penalties. So last year, I don't know if you remember, we had an IRS penalty that we had to pay. So our interest and penalties this year does include the $100,000 for the HUD repayment. I spoke with the auditing firm to just confirm that that would be the best place for that in the budget. So that is where we put it, but there is a decrease of $80,000 in that line item. So that made a big difference in our line items. We did increase the commercial insurance policies by about $78,000. That's due to the deductibles that we pay for any lawsuits. That's kind of been increasing. So for any lawsuits, there are deductibles that we're required to pay. That also includes a 5% increase for next year's premium. Any questions for the finance budget?
Any questions, Mr. Biter?
Could you explain a little bit more as to why we're going to be paying back HUD that $100,000?
I don't have all the specifics. But yeah, Liz can
I
help with
explain
that.
A little better if that's okay, or
Yeah,
I might be able
somebody.
to. So over the years, we've had the city has historically speaking done home rehab with home funding through the city, and several of those projects have come out to be more or less unworkable. And as part of the HUD review that was initiated last year, they're recalling some of the funding that we spent on those projects. My impression, although we should probably talk to Valerie about this too on Wednesday when she's here. And Derek may have something to add in, is that the amount of paperwork and the amount of reporting required for these, I mean, sometimes like $10,000 or $15,000 home rehab projects is such that at some point or another, we kind of failed to create the proper paperwork. And now 20 years later, after we had finished a home rehab project, HUD is telling us that we don't have sufficient documentation to get reimbursed or to have used the funding for that. There was some other issue there as well. Eric, Derek, can you refresh my memory? There was
I was trying to think of it as well.
Was it
and
the
I'm-
SPCA?
SPCA, yeah, the
Yeah.
spay and neuter program. We weren't we didn't update requirements to the SPCA in terms of collecting income data to make certain that we were serving the appropriate income group. So some of the funding that we've put into the spay and neuter program historically has also been recalled by HUD. That I'm assuming will not be a problem moving forward, that we've updated. Their
Yeah, and I
reporting
don't
requirements.
think that we have any of the community development money currently going to HUD anyway. This was not from the mayor's budget. This was the one specifically from community development.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay,
that, so mine doesn't have those, the 28,000 in mine doesn't have those restrictions. But
okay.
this was out of the community development. At that time it did. And SPCA had some turnover as well. And so they didn't have to be able to show that it was the low to moderate folks that were receiving this spay and neuter. So just as Councilwoman Millie said, historically, they were getting that money at some point, and HUD said, they didn't have the proper documentation, basically.
To put this in perspective, however, Eric, last time we got audited, which was more than 30 years ago now, we got audited in the 90s, immediately after Steve Capelli's departure from the mayor's office. And Mr. Capelli had authorized millions of dollars in funding in high income areas out of HUD. So we repaid $2 or $3 million in CDBG funds after he departed the city. So, could be worse. And, but anyway, I think overall, given that we have 30 years worth of documentation that they were reviewing to complete the audit, we made out pretty well.
Okay.
And I think we're on a good track
Mhm.
to, proceed. They took everything that the HUD monitoring
Mhm.
gave them and used that to improve anything that they needed to improve, I believe.
Any additional questions for finance and administration?
I've just
Mr. Allison?
the increase in the deductibles for lawsuits is based on our experience, correct?
It's based on the number of lawsuits that are
Right.
coming in. Yeah,
Um,
it's increasing,
so
so
we're,
our
yeah,
deductibles are
if we're
increasing.
ever able to get a handle on that and bring that into a reasonable.
That's hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that 2024 was bad, but these are things that are from previous years that
Right.
the insurance company continues to work on. So the deductibles come from, they could be as far back as 2019.
Mhm.
Like they come now for things that they're working on for those types of lawsuits.
So is it possible that once those are worked through?
Yes, that may go down, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
Any additional questions for Ms. Livermore? Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to the Department of Public Works. Which starts off. Notes are right here. Page 35, right?
Page 35, correct? Yep.
Welcome, sir. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So the 2025 proposed budget for Public Works and the Office of Directors. We are proposed to increase 2.47%. One of the main contributors is the 3% increase for the at-wills and O&E contract and that. And the Office of Directors. Any questions on that?
Any questions for Mr. Livermore on?
I have a question, just because I keep seeing this note about information technology. What does that mean? And what did we do? Like, how did we change the allocations there? Um,
For the city hall allocation.
Well, the city, I understand removing the police from the city hall.
And there was
operating
also
position.
some computers added to departments as well. So that increased in some departments and
Ah.
decreased in others. So
Okay, so
if-
that's what it means. I wasn't sure if this was like a unit of time that IT was spending in a given department.
no,
Okay,
it has to
no.
do with unit of
Okay.
computers.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Any additional questions so far?
Moving on next, so the Streets and Traffic Control Department, with an increase of 2.34%. The main contributor in that one, we're up 61,000. So it would be into the capital projects of an additional $118,000. Due to some of the equipment that, was a slight maybe oversight in my part of last year, trying to get captured of some of the 50-some pieces I have and getting them all in the capital project. So we have a plan going forward in the future to replace all these. So that 2.34% increase is a lot of that. That's one of the big contributors there. Are there any questions in that?
Any questions for Mr. Livermore? Okay. We'll keep going.
Okay, moving on to flood control, page 36. We are up 7.29%. The biggest factor in this is last year, our flood control materials was moved out and we utilized ARPA expenditures. We are now putting that back in the general fund, which makes that increase to 7.29%. Which is an additional $25,000. So any questions on that one?
Any questions for members? Ms. Mealy?
Actually, not directly a question on that, but I'm presuming, but I did not check the agendas to see, will we be reviewing the capital projects budget separately?
It's on Wednesday.
It's on Wednesday. Good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. And I mean, Jamie, I'm assuming you've got enough of the information that even if say Scott's not here because he's, okay, good. All of it. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you.
What do you classify as flood control materials?
What do I classify? What we get out of it?
Yeah.
A lot of our herbicides, which are high dollar, expensive. You know, we spend anywhere from 10 to 12 to $15,000 in herbicides for the year. Any equipment, that the materials for greasing the stems, painting the pump stations, upgrading, keeping them maintained.
Now, are we able to draw any of the federal dollars that we got through the earmark from Keller to help with that?
Possibly, I'm not sure. I could ask them though.
Okay.
Any addition?
All right, moving on to parks. Parks, we are up 2.84%. There again, one of the big contributors in the parks are the capital projects at $23,333. That is additional equipment being put in to the capital projects. And yeah, that is one of the big ones there. Any questions on parks?
Any questions for Mr. Livermore on the park section? Okay.
So
Mr.
we're
Walker.
gonna move recreation.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna divert to my coordinator.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Walker, welcome, sir.
Good evening, council members. As far as recreation, we were under a 3.09%. One of the major contributors with that was a decrease in the MMO, which was 5,571. Any questions on that one? The next one is recreation program. We were an increase of 0.94% on that. That was our supplies and materials, which was increased due to historical analysis of cost on that one. Any questions on that?
Any questions from members on any of the recreation programming budget? Ms. Mealy?
I'm assuming we're not contemplating changing our recreational offerings for next year at all? Just I noted, I mean, that we're keeping the same budgeted cost as last year related to concerts in the park. Now, I know we didn't have a whole bunch of those this year, but we're anticipating bringing that program back, right?
Right.
Okay. And the same with all of the parks programs that we're currently running. We're basically continuing that out. Same.
Yes.
That was everything. Thank you.
Any other questions so far? Okay.
The swimming pool program, we went up 17.5% on that. The two main contributors on that one was the electric, which was increased to cover splash pad electricity out to the splash pad. That was up 3,500. And also our capital projects increased due to additional equipment added. And from what I was told, that was because of the scum gutters at the pool.
Any questions on the swimming pool? Ms. Mealy?
Not a question, but a commendation. I haven't made it to a lot of public pools in recent history, but now that I have 3 small children, I wound up at the pool this summer and my kids thought it was phenomenal. And anyway, and you really had some wonderful staff down there. So thank you. It was,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the pool? Okay.
Thank you, council.
Engineer.
What's the other thing that's listed on the agenda? I think you got everything. Yeah, I don't know what other is.
It says other,
What's that?
just says other.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go to the engineer.
All right, jumping on the engineer, we are down 10.61%.
Yeah, what page here? Hang on. We're on page
25, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, we are down 10.61%. That was due to the health insurance MMO, the increase went down. Is there any questions in that?
Any questions for our city engineer or for Scott Livermore in the engineering department? Ms. Mealy?
No questions for the engineering department specifically, but, Jamie Livermore, Ms. Livermore, well, and I guess maybe this is a bit of an HR question too. There's no reason for us to expect to maintain the decrease or maintain even the same level necessarily with the O and E MMO next year, right? I'm trying to remember. I apologize, but we reviewed the MMO a month or two ago. And I don't remember whether the amount of the MMO is likely to stay static or whether we are likely to.
I believe so, but I'd have to talk to Mock and Hop about it and I
Okay.
can get back to you and let you know.
Got it. I know what will next year be using the 25 valuation. Anyway, just curious how this might impact next year's budget. Obviously, it's helping us out. We're seeing a decrease in spending in a
O&E,
number of
yeah.
departments for over O&E, right? I don't know that we'll be able to count quite on that next year.
Yeah,
so,
I'll talk to Mock
okay.
and Hop about it and I'll
All
give
right.
you
Thanks.
a summary on that.
Any other questions on the engineer's budget? Okay, you're free, Scott.
For now.
For now. I'm just kidding. No, just kidding. All right, that down and dirty, quick and easy. Concludes the items for tonight. Item 3, announcements. Our next full meeting is Thursday, December 5th, 7 p.m. here in Train Transit 2. We will have a concurring budget meeting to go through additional departments of community development, public safety, and then all of the miscellaneous fund budgets. Wednesday of this week, the 20th at 7 p.m. here in Train Transit 2. I will take a motion, a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you Wednesday.